Whether you're picking and grinning or just grinning, grab a drink, pull up a seat. It's time for Roots Music Rambler. Turn it up. All right, so Frank, we got a vote. We are members of the Americana Music Association, and that means that when the 2025 Americana Honors and Awards ballot came out this last week, but as we're recording this, we get a vote. So unfortunately, we only have one vote, so I can't vote and then you vote. So what we're going to do here on the show is we're going to go through the ballot. We're going to talk about who we think should win, and then I'm going to click the button I want to click. And if you convince me well enough, I'll click the button you want to click too. We'll probably agree on some of them, but there might be a couple where we have to arm wrestle a little bit. All right. Ready for this?
Okay. Sure. Maybe. Yes.
Okay. All right. 2025 Americana Honors and Awards ballot, the album of the year. We're just going to start from the top and go through this big to small. All right. Here are the nominees for album of the year. Lonesome Drifter, Charlie Crockett, produced by Charlie Crockett and Shooter Jennings. Foxes in the Snow, Jason Isbell, produced by Jason Isbell and Gina Johnson. Manning Fireworks, MJ Linderman, produced by Alex Farrar and MJ Linderman. South of Here, Nathaniel Rateliff and the Night Sweats, produced by Brad Cook. And Woodland, Gillian Welch and David Rawlings, produced by David Rawlings. For me, when I saw this list, I was like, holy crap, how are we going to choose? Because all these are great albums, I think. And so...
Mostly.
So, well, I know you have one that you don't particularly care for, but that's fine. So what's your pick, or what do you think, and what's your commentary on who should win this thing?
Oh, I'm glad I don't have to make the final decision here. Yeah, geez. I think I got to go with my guy, Nathaniel Rateliff.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, he's been at it for a long time, and he deserves the recognition. I mean, he has persevered and overcome obstacles and whatnot. And yeah, I think he's like musically, the sound is great. Yep. So that's going to be my uneducated pick there. Okay. Or not uneducated, but uninformed opinion.
Okay. Well, so I don't disagree with you that he deserves the recognition, that his sound is really dialed in. South of Here is his best album, their best album by far. Watching them perform it live is something magical. I mean, they're just great live. So I don't think anybody's going to be upset if they win. I don't think they're going to win.
Probably not.
The industry likes Gillian Welch and David Rawlings. They like them a lot more than most people. If it's not them, it's probably going to be Jason Isbell, because he is the songwriter du jour right now in the space. I know you didn't necessarily care too much for Foxes in the Snow. I like it just fine, just because it's Jason Isbell, and I think almost everything he does turns to gold. So I think the winner is going to be either Woodland or Foxes in the Snow. Not to take anything away from MJ Linderman or Charlie Crockett, because those albums are fantastic. They really, really are. So anybody wins here, I'm happy. But I will go with your vote on this and vote South of Here, Nathaniel Rateliff and the Night Sweats, produced by Brad Cook. I think they're doing great work right now, and there's not a song on that album that doesn't make me just kind of, want to at least tap my feet, if not get up and shake my ass a little bit. So it's a good album. Not to take away from the others, you got to pick somebody. So we'll go with South of Here, Nathaniel Rateliff and the Night Sweats.
Yeah, and that's kind of what I was going for there. Like they're all nominees, so they're deserving of that, right? I sometimes feel though that MJ Linderman is kind of like a one of the darlings of the genre right now. Mm-hmm. So, and I don't have anything against him.
Yeah,
I like some of his songs. Some of them but yeah, I'll keep those opinions to myself right now, because that's not what we're going for. Okay, I feel like
I'll be really surprised if Woodland doesn't win this thing. I just think, Gillian Welch and David Rawlings, they don't produce a record very often. It's every couple of years or so for them, and so when they are nominated, I almost think everybody votes for them just because they feel like they need to. And it's a great album. There's no doubt about it. But South of Here, Nathaniel Rateliff and the Night Sweats gets the Roots Music Rambler vote this year. All right, Artist of the Year. Charlie Crockett is on that list, And again, this is a list of 5 people that you can't go wrong picking any of them. Charlie Crockett, Sierra Farrell, Joy Olatakun, Billy Strings, Waxahachie. That's a 2025 All-Star team if I've ever heard of one. So Charlie, Sierra, Joy, Billy, Waxahachie. Who's your pick?
Why do I have to go first again? Okay.
Well, everybody knows who I'm going to say.
Yeah, that's true. Oh boy. Artist of the year. Okay. I am going to go with Waxahachie.
Oh, okay. I like that. That's a very good pick, respectable pick. And I could see her winning that. I could see her coming kind of an underdog candidate here and winning that category because all these other ones are really good. Sierra Farrell, I think, is almost, you almost can't vote for her because I think she won it last year and Trail of Flowers came out last year. So even though she's, blown up with live shows and all that good stuff, and certainly she deserves to be on the list, I kind of feel like Sierra Farrell is kind of a non sequitur. I don't think people are going to vote for her, even though she's very deserving. Charlie Crockett, maybe, but I think he's been on this list before.
Okay.
Billy Strings and Waxahachie are the 2 that I think are kind of those underdog favorites. I don't think they're as big a names really as the other 3. Maybe Billy is, but I could see Waxahachie winning this. I can't not vote for Joy Olatakun. She's my favorite artist ever of all time anywhere. And so I'm going to pick Joy, and I love what she's been doing lately. She's even released a couple of singles here in the last month or so. So I would like to pick Joy. Are you going to be upset if I pick Joy over Waxahachie?
Of course not.
Okay. Well,
of course not. I love Joy as well. Yeah. You said it after I told you my pick about the underdog.
Yeah.
And that's who I am. I'm always going for the underdog.
Yep.
And that's why I picked Nathaniel Rateliff in the previous category. So yeah, but I'm not upset.
Okay.
That you picked Joy Olatakun and not Waxahachie.
So Artist of the Year, the Roots Music Rambler vote is going to Joy Olatakun, and I couldn't be happier about that. Again, any one of those 5 can win, and nobody's going to complain. They're all fantastic. So
yeah.
All right, Duo Group of the Year. This one's a tough one. We got Julian Baker and Torres. We've got Dawes. We've got Larkin Poe, and I love their album, by the way. I just got their album a couple weeks ago. It's so good.
Okay.
And then we've got the Mavericks, who I just saw live a few weeks ago. Unbelievable. And then there they are again, Gillian Welch and David Rawlings, who I think they got to be your odds-on favorite to win that because the AMA loves them. And there's plenty of reason to love them. Again, I'm not complaining about it. But Duo Group of the Year, if I were to pick one based on kind of how they've exploded this year, I would pick either Larkin Poe or Julian Baker and Torres. Either one of those, I think, would be my pick, although I think Gillian Welch and David Rawlings are going to win it. What do you think?
I agree with you. I'm sure Gillian and David are going to win this one as well. Julian Baker and Torres, though, they, like you said, have exploded this year. And my first thought was to go with the underdog, and that's the Mavericks.
Ooh, you think the Mavericks are the underdog on this one? Okay.
I do. When it comes, going up against Gillian Welch and David Rawlings for sure. And like you said, Julian Baker and Torres and Larkin Poe, they have really made their way this year. And Dawes is probably like an underdog too. They've been around for such a long time. But yeah, if I were choosing on my own, I would pick the Mavericks. I just love Raul Malo's voice. And so that is my really like personal opinion.
All right. Well, I think, we basically have a 3-way tie here almost because I could vote for any of those. So I'm going to randomly shuffle these in my head. Pick a number between 1 and 3.
7.
That's not between 1 and 3.
Shoot. 3.
3. We're going with Julian Baker and Torres.
All right.
All right. So that's a good pick. Again, anybody in this category wins. Nobody's going to be upset. All right.
And I mean, we like Boy Genius and Julian Baker, so, that's okay.
That's true. So, all right, Julian Baker and Torres get our Duo Group of the Year vote. I think we both think Gillian Welch, Dave Rawlings are going to win it, but we're voting for them. All right. Emerging Act of the Year. This one's a little bit more difficult, although I do know the names. I haven't seen as much from these folks, but Nolene Hoffman, MJ Linderman, Medium Build, who opened for Joy Olatakun at the Ryman when I saw him there, and he's really, really good. Maggie Rose, who I love, and Jesse Wells, whose song Horses I just heard yesterday on the radio and is so good. I think this is a shoe-in. I think there's one out of this group that's a slam dunk, that there's no way that they don't get it, that I would be shocked if they don't get it. And
Okay.
that's MJ Linderman. I would not be, I would be really surprised if he doesn't win this. The rest of them, very deserving, but I feel like based on the popularity of his songs, kind of his explosion, the word on the street in the Americana space about him is like he's this like Jason Isbell-esque songwriter who's just really good and really smart and has a lot of promise. I'll be surprised if he doesn't win this, but what do you think?
I agree, and I think MJ Lenderman is more likely to win this category than album of the year. And, he's deserving. He really has made a name for himself in recent months and, within the last year. And I think I mentioned before on an older episode that I know when the artists in our genre, when they've like made it or they've achieved more commercial success, when my 8th grade students start asking for me to play them.
Yeah.
And that artist from this list is MJ Lenderman.
Nice.
So, that again, my personal
Yeah.
opinion, my personal input, and yeah, I would go with him for this category.
Well, I think we kind of have to. I'm not going to go against the grain on this. I think it's kind of, again, as I said a second ago, I think it's a slam dunk. I think he wins by a long shot, by a big margin in this one, personally. I don't know Nolene Hoffman as well as I should. I've seen Medium Build and Maggie Rose, and I've listened to a lot of Jesse Wells. I think all of them are very, very good. But again, the year he's had, MJ Linderman, I mean, especially even being nominated for Album of the Year, I think it's hard for him to lose to this one. So we'll vote for MJ Linderman and give him that vote on from the Roots Music Rambler account. All right, this one's the tough one. I had to do a little bit more research on this one because they do give an instrumentalist of the year, and I'm very glad they do because obviously there's more to it than the headliner and more to it than the name on the marquee. So the nominees are Fred Eltringham, who is a drummer, Alex Hargreaves, Megan Jane, Caitlin Rates, and Seth Taylor. So I've done a little bit of research here. So Fred Eltringham has been playing drums for Sheryl Crow since 2012. He's toured with folks like Katie Lang, the Chicks, the Wallflowers, Juliana Hatfield, Ben Queller, and a bunch more. He was the Academy of Country Music Drummer of the Year a couple of years ago, I think. He's obviously very talented, but this nomination, I think, comes from his involvement in doing session recordings and whatnot and being really connected in the industry as well. So that's his kind of credentials. The next one on the list is Alex Hargreaves, and Alex is a fiddle player, and he is currently touring with, let's see, who is he currently touring with? I saw this somewhere not long ago. He's touring with Billy Strings.
Oh.
So he's Billy Strings' fiddle player right now, at least on tour. He's recorded with a bunch of others and toured with a bunch of others too. And so he's a young kid too.
Okay.
And so based on his bio and what I've been able to surmise about him, I would almost think he might be a favorite on this list. So there's Alex Hargreaves. Megan Jane is also a drummer, and she is kind of a session drummer in Nashville. I believe she's been playing with Molly Tuttle recently. So she's doing a lot of touring with some other folks, but she's kind of a freelance Nashville-based drummer. So to see her on the list means the people in the industry really know who she is and think she's really talented. So hard to argue with that. Caitlin Rates is the fourth of the five people on the list, and she is a freelance cellist in Nashville. She's originally from New York. She lives in Nashville, and based on what I can gather from her social media feeds and whatnot, she has recently been on stage and done some collaborations with Jesse Wells, who we just mentioned a few minutes ago. I've seen her do some social media collaborations with Joy Olatakun. So there's a lot of people in the industry who are choosing to collaborate with Caitlin Rates. So she's a cellist and on the list. And then last but not least, I'm sure, is Seth Taylor. Taylor is in the band Mountain Heart. That's his band. He is a guitarist, and session musician. I think he's a multi-instrumentalist. The bluegrass group Mountain Heart and the acoustic group Woodbox Heroes are the acts that he's most associated with. He's done session work with Colby Acuff, Zach Bryan, Aaron Lewis, Willie Nelson, and others. He's also performed with the likes of Carly Pearson, Ricky Skaggs. So that's your list. Based on my very superficial research, and I didn't spend a whole lot of time doing this, so my apologies to the nominees, I think Alex Hargraves is probably going to be your front runner in this particular category because, when you play fiddle and for Billy Strings, you're playing your ass off every night. So I would be a little surprised if he doesn't win it. But again, I don't know the insider industry buzz in Nashville. Any thoughts from you on the instrumentalist category?
It's like we share a brain. I was gonna say the same thing about Alex Hargreaves. If he can keep up with Billy Strings, then he gets my vote.
Okay. Well, we'll just vote for Alex Hargraves. So the last two categories, emerging act and instrumentalist of the year, we're kind of going with the odds-on favorite, at least in our minds. All right. The last category, song of the year. They're doozies now. They're doozies. All right, here we go. Johnny Moonshine by Maggie Antone, written by Maggie Antone, Natalie Hemby, and Aaron Ratier. Ancient Light by I'm With Her, which is the trio of Sarah Jarosz, Aoife O'Donovan, and Sarah Watkins. They're on tour right now. Wristwatch, MJ Linderman, written by MJ Linderman. Very popular, a lot of airplay on the Americana airwaves these days. J.D. McPherson comes in with Sunshine Getaway. Really great song, hopping song. I've played it several times on WFPK and have it on my playlist as well. Written by Paige Burkham, J.D. McPherson, and Jack Torrey. And then the final entry in Song of the Year is Heartless, Nathaniel Rateliff and the Night Sweats, written by Nathaniel Rateliff. So you got Nathaniel Rateliff and MJ Linderman are both nominated for Album of the Year and Song of the Year. So my bet is it's going to be one of those two. Any thoughts on what you think the Song of the Year might be?
Oh gosh. I mean, if we're talking about airplay, popularity, I would say Wristwatch. And if we're talking about really underlier, outlier, underdog, I would go with Ancient Light by I'm With Her. So yeah, I honestly don't know with this one. I think this could go, anybody, everyone has an equal chance at this one because it is just a song. So, and not an entire album. So yeah, I would probably go with, for this one, I think I would go with Heartless,
Okay.
Nathaniel Rateliff.
All right. I'm going to trump you on this one.
Of course.
Heartless is a great song. I love it. Play it a lot. I think Ancient Light, I think you're spot on with that. When Sarah Jarosz touches something, she wins a Grammy for it.
Yeah.
So I'm going to find it hard to argue with that one as the winner. I would find it hard to argue with any of them as the winner. They're all great songs. I love Johnny Moonshine's a fantastic song. I love Sunshine Getaway. But I think Ancient Light, that trio, Aoife O'Donovan, Sarah Jarosz, and Sarah Watkins, they're all fantastic individually. You put three together, that's a hell of a formula. I think that one's going to win it. So we'll vote for Ancient Light. I don't have any problem with Nathaniel Rateliff or any of the other ones winning it, but there we go. So to recap our votes for Americana Honors and Awards for 2025, the vote from Roots Music Rambler is Album of the Year, South of Here by Nathaniel Rateliff and the Night Sweats. Artist of the Year, Joy Aladakun. Duo Group of the Year, Julian Baker and Torres. Emerging Act of the Year, MJ Linderman. Instrumentalist of the Year, Alex Hargraves. And Song of the Year, Ancient Light from I'm With Her, which is Sarah Jarosz, Aoife O'Donovan, and Sarah Watkins. I think that's a respectable ballot. We probably won't be right across the board, but by golly, I think we got some good votes there.
All right. I agree. And like you said, can't really go wrong with any of them.
You're right. We can't go wrong. So we're right 100% of the time. Welcome to Roots Music Rambler. She's Frank.
And he's Foles.
And we're rambling on through the stories behind the music we love.
That's right. And today on the show, we're talking to Nicholas Jamerson. Most people know him as one half of the country duo Sundy Best, but he also has quite an accomplished solo career. He's generally considered one of the preeminent songwriters in today's Americana / indie / folk landscape.
That certainly is the case. His latest album is the third in a themed trilogy that started in 2020. It's called Running Out of Daylight. The other two albums in the series are The Wild Frontier and Peace Mountain. The narrative throughout those albums is rich with observations and stories inspired by where he grew up, which is Prestonsburg, Kentucky, which happens to be 20 minutes down the 4-lane, as we say back home, from Pikeville, where I'm from. And y'all know that. So there you go.
Right. So then my question, of course, is, are y'all kin?
Sadly, no. But before he was a country music singer and songwriter, I knew his name because he was an outstanding football player at Prestonsburg High School. He wound up playing college football at UPike, the University of Pikeville, in my hometown. So we have a lot of like common friends and acquaintances.
Okay. All right. Interesting. So not only is he half of Sunday Best, he's also a hell of a solo artist. And he also has a very talented sister, Emily Jamerson. She's also a singer-songwriter. So it seems to run in the family. And we'll have to explore that with him a little bit more on the show.
And that we will. We'll also have our Picking the Grinning segment with some recommendations of some new album songs or artists to check out. So you'll want to listen for that.
Definitely. So this is going to be a fun one. If I can keep the two of you being Jason and Nicholas, from going down that Eastern Kentucky rabbit hole on all of us.
Yeah, it's good luck with that. But before we go down any rabbit holes, let's take a quick break for a refill so you can listen to some of the fine sponsors that make this show happen. When we come back, Nicholas Jamerson, his own self, will be here with us. Don't go away. This is Roots Music Rambler.
Imagine this. The best pasta sauce you have ever tasted sits abandoned on a plate. Wasted sauce. That is a tragedy. If only you had used Barilla al Bronzo pasta. Its bronze-cut texture holds your sauce and scoops up every last drop. The Italians call that scarpetta. Capture sauce the Italian way. Barilla al Bronzo. Click or tap the banner to find out more.
There's a river made of gold and silver in the hills. There's a ladder if we find it, but we likely never will. There's a water at the bottom, it trickles down the rungs, dripping to the tune just enough to pay the bills. Money fills canyons in the pockets of a few. That's the way it flows in the red, white, and blue. On every mile of railroad, all across the land, is a long life of labor for a working man.
That song is Working Man. It's the latest release from the incredibly talented Nicholas Jamerson. He's also one half of the notable country folk duo Sundy Best and a fellow proud hillbilly. Nicholas joins us on Roots Music Rambler straight from Floyd County, Kentucky. My man, how are you? And thanks for coming on the show.
I'm doing good. Thanks for having me.
Well, we are tickled to have you. We're recording just a couple days after the Laurel Cove Music Festival, which I believe you headlined this year. How'd that go?
It was incredible, as it always is out there. The rain was, in the year of the rain, was kind of got in the way of everybody. But, anytime out there that can play a show, it's just super special and just feels like a big family reunion. So you spend more time talking and hugging necks than anything else. So
There you go.
Nice. And so Jason mentioned that you have played there before a number of times over the years. So how different is an experience like as an elder statesman and headliner versus maybe years past when you were working your way to that point?
yeah, or just a little more ease of what to expect and feel like I was already kind of like I'm already accepted, so you can just kind of just do what we do. And yeah, it's really hard to put into words what it was like this time around. It was just, in music, when you can get everybody on the same page, it is just that's what I feel like I've worked my whole life for, was moments like that, up a holler next to a creek with 500 people singing every word to a song, and just like you feel that this presence of everyone. And it's just something that, like I said, I feel like I've worked my whole life for, and then to experience it in that setting was just it was incredible.
It's gotta be a lot different than, playing up a holler for, your family members and friends and, 25 or 30 people with a keg of beer.
It kind of feels the same, honestly. It's like I've been preparing for that my whole life, so I guess it's like everything comes back around. That's
Yeah.
kind of what it feels like I'm back to you know the friend, like I said. So
That's good. So your new studio album is due out, I think, in 3 days from the time we record this. It'll be out when people are hearing this. It's called The Narrow Way. Working Man is on it, as well as a couple other cuts we'll play for the folks in a bit. I'm sure you're really excited about getting it out there, but tell folks what to expect. I know you've got some notable help in there on this record, right?
yeah, it's my friend Rachel Bayman helped me. She produced it, and when I started on this particular project, I just felt like I was going to be diving through some things that I really need some help to sort of sort through. And so this project, I guess, is about 2 years in the making, but it's as part of this trilogy that I've been working on over the last 10 years since I moved home. And it's just this last little leg of it has been a lot of this heavy stuff, like grief and just things that I didn't realize that I'd been carrying around. I've been lately talking about it more, and just like the residue that we kind of build up over a lifetime, of just going through stuff. So yeah, it's pretty heavy. Like, it's been pretty heavy for me, and the narrow way in a from a philosophical standpoint is kind of like walking that narrow path between looking at your grief and your sorrow and not getting consumed by it, and still finding gratitude and grace in that. So it was kind of a hard line. It is a hard line to walk. So, and especially like as I was creating it, like allowing yourself to feel hard feelings in the context of being a dad and a fiance, and it's tough. So, but I feel like there was so much healing that happened through that process, and now getting to like release these songs out into the world and just get good feedback from other people, like of just feeling similarly about stuff and not really knowing how to articulate it. I feel like that's just affirming for the work that I feel like I'm trying to do with music, of just helping people feel seen too. And so, yeah, I'm excited to get it out. I'm trying to also find this sweet spot of talking about it, but not like letting it consume my life either. Like I heard someone say, like, how when you have these albums, they just become your entire personality for the duration of the cycle. And I'm just trying to enjoy it as much as I possibly can and not get sucked up into the metrics of things. And
Sure. Well, it's gotta be interesting to have such a therapeutic experience of putting the album together and getting through those emotions and getting through those feelings, and now you're
yeah,
expected to go talk about those emotions
yeah, it is.
feelings
I
day
think
after
that
day after day. That's gotta be a challenge.
every album in that. So I like to think that it's just like remembering what I've learned along the way, and that's where I say, like, I don't need to be talking about it all the time, but there is a time and a place to do that, and remembering that that's the work that I signed up for. And that was, about 10, 11 years ago, about the height of the first Sunday best wave of things. I kind of had this realization that if I'm going to have to go out and talk about things like you do with these records, that I just want it to be something like really meaningful, and something that in my mind I can like help, help the propel, just help the world in a positive way. And music, I think that does that no matter what the intention is. But I just needed a little more just I'm gonna try to get you guys drunk, and that's the end, Yeah, yeah, exactly.
You're growing up.
Like, I hit 30 and I was just like,
Yeah.
"Wow, this is not what I thought 30 was gonna look like," and
Wow.
now I'll be 40 next month, and it's just like, gosh, it's just crazy
Mm.
getting older.
It flies.
Wait till you get to 50. Jason and I can speak to that, both of us. Oh, man. Well, so another person that contributed on the album was your sister, Emily
Yeah, it
Jamerson.
was
How was that working
the
with Emily?
songs that
It
we
was
chose
also
for her to sing on, it was,
Go ahead.
it was really intentional of I feel like so much of our life is we've just had the same experience, at least on a family level, and it was one to just her talent is so elite, and to just continue to see her grow in those kind of settings, and then the songs in particular was, like, about missing family that had passed on, and some, like, divorce stuff with my parents, it was just, like, good for us to go through that together and to, like, feel like we got to have that sort of cathartic release together, and, she's just been there, like I said, from the get-go. I don't remember my life without her, and it's just yeah, well, it's just such a special thing, and
Don't make me
so
cry.
for us to just continue to just to have that behind the songs and the performance, that to me is, like, the thing that I hold on to the most is, like, having those experiences together, and I really try to just be as present and as intentional through the process as I can because I just feel like that's all you really have. You we release the record and it kinda the world does with it what it will do with it, but yeah, just to have her with me through that is just a it's like my grandmother was, like, really into home videos and, like, to always have that to go back and look at. It's like to just have this moment of time that we shared and, it's just special, so
That's awesome.
That's really sweet. That is really sweet. So, with all this talent between
yeah, we
you
also have 3
and
other
Emily,
brothers.
what on
Yeah,
earth
we have
was the
2 other
Jamerson
brothers,
house
and
like when you 2 were
we're not
growing up?
even like, we have a middle
Okay.
brother, Clay, who is a school teacher, but he's, like, the most showman of all of us, and then a younger brother, Joseph, who is also a singer, so,
Wow.
it was pretty, wild growing up, you know? Everybody doing different things and strong personalities, and, my sister being the only girl of 3, or 3 boys, 1 girl, like She, uh, she tried to help my mom be mom too, and
Right.
we were all really into sports and just really, really busy. So I think that kinda was a choice my parents made to kinda keep us all Yeah,
Mm.
yeah, yeah.
Keep
Lot of trouble?
keep
We,
from killing each other.
we were in church a lot, spent a lot of time there, always at the ball field. My dad was a coach, and, yeah, it was a lot of fun, especially as the oldest, so
How how much of the household was circulated around music? I know you were busy with sports and whatnot.
Yeah, I mean, that's
Having
what
a
church
talent
was.
come out of the house, I would think it's pretty
My mom was the choir director, like the children's choir director, so we were singing every week at church, piano lessons, which I really fought when I was younger, and my grandmother in particular on my dad's side, they would have, like, these gatherings, just have friends over, and they would play music for, like, 4 or 5 hours at a time, and those were some of the earliest memories were just being in the living room around this nonstop, just like concert, social, and just the intertwinings of family and friends and music. And I feel like most of my life I was spending trying to like excavate those kind of things for myself, like having those experiences early on, and then you know, you're like I said, you're singing in church, doing all these things, but like just figuring out what it means to you and how you can articulate that in your own way, even though I was in sports, I was always just working at that and trying to figure that out. And I remember one time it was like the Eagles, like Hell Freezes Over, like VH1 or MTV special where they're all like lined up on the chairs. And I remember like
Yep.
having a reenactment of that in our living room. Like my sister had the long hair, so she looked like Timothy B. Schmidt, and I had like the cowlick like Henley. And oh yeah, I mean, we would like had like video cameras, and I found recently some videos of me like playing Sweet Home Alabama on a electric guitar, and just trying to figure it out. And it was just, yeah, it was my sister, she always talks about how the summer that I like really
I
started
love
playing
that.
acoustic guitar, I was like trying to learn It's Your Love by Tim McGraw. And she just got so sick of that song because I was singing it to girls at school and like over the phone, and we just like you
Nice.
uh,
Oh my goodness,
That's
that's
fine.
great.
Now, I understand most of the album was written back home there in Prestonsburg in Eastern Kentucky. We love on this show to kind of celebrate the impact of place on the music we love. You've already talked about, I think, some of the family, traumas and emotions that you have to deal with that went into the music. But how do you think Prestonsburg and Floyd County and Eastern Kentucky come to
um
bear on
well,
influencing the music of this album?
this area is really steeped in traditional music and like bluegrass style instrumentation. Like I'll say old time too. That was a choice, like with Rachel producing it, that she's like really steeped in old time. And I think musically, like that's like what you'll see on, like there's a lot of like fiddle and banjo instrumentation and just kind of bare. But I also think just living here, it's so isolated from so much like distraction, really. I think that's like the big thing for me living here is that I can go out into the world and I perform, and you experience the busyness, and then you come back here and it's like you really kind of I have to sit with myself, like there's a lot I can just focus on what I'm doing here. And I think that's probably the subtle aspect of it here is just like I'm in the woods and kind of in contemplation here. And there's not like, I have family here, but they're all busy, in their own lives too. And everybody's busy, so like my work is my work. And this is, diving through this stuff was my work. So yeah, I just think that living here, it allowed me to kind of block out the noise of the world and really be able to listen to what my heart was telling me. So, but instrumentally, it's just it's the country music highway that I live off of, and there's just so much. It's like I don't coming from a sports background. I don't think that like that music is competitive in that way, but to to have so many people that have made such a large impact musically from this area, like it does like it like does motivate me, you know? And it's also this thing where
Yeah.
there's so many people that have have like kind of broken through the glass ceiling that that is typical for this area, like in terms of socially what people say about living here and what the you got to go to Nashville or you have to do these other things, and that's just not the case anymore. I, and so I don't know.
Yeah.
It's that's a lot. That's a big answer, I guess. But
Mm. Well, it's an appropriate answer too, and I think
Absolutely.
it's awesome to know, and I don't know if you notice or how you feel. I'm sure you see them, but I happen to know that every time when I go home to Pikeville and I'm coming back and I cross the Pike Floyd County line, there's the road sign. Country Music Highway, Dwight Yoakam, Sundy Best. And that's that you've made an impact already. And I can't imagine it won't be too long before it's going to say also Nicholas Jamerson, the solo artist too. And that's you've done a lot
That in
already.
particular is still surreal to me, and when it first happened, it was something that I didn't really feel like I had earned, just because, that's that's a lot of my own issues, but also at the same time, just growing up and seeing those names, and that just seemed like a larger than life kind of accolade, and we were really, when that happened, like kind of 4 or 5 years into the journey, official, it obviously had gone back farther than that, but yeah, that's stupid.
Well, now remember, I know a thing or two about the road signs, because my mother was probably the one who produced and presented yours, because she was the communications director for the transportation cabinet that does the Country Music Highway sign. Remember 2 things about that. Number 1, if it was 5 years into your life cycle, remember the Beatles only lasted 10 years, right? And number 2, the Country Music Highway sign is 3 or 4 or 5 steps above having a bridge named after.
That is the truth.
Everybody's Badpole's got a bridge named after him in Eastern Kentucky. I mean, no offense. If you get a bridge named after you, you've done something, but there's a lot of bridges in Eastern Kentucky named after somebody.
Okay, then. And I hate to say it, but a lot of the bridges and stuff around here are like in memory of, other people who've passed. So,
Yeah.
oh man. Well, I appreciate the response to the question about how where you're from really bears on, how it influences the music that you are creating, especially for this next upcoming album, which is the third one of the trilogy, right? Like you said. And to us, it sort of has a more meditative, like, air about it. So I think the answer that you just gave really emphasizes that, right?
This
So,
one in particular,
what do you hope,
just
though, that listeners get out of these albums?
catharsis from it. I hope that there's something that I touch on that like strikes them, that maybe they've held on to something like for just too long, and that they're able to like acknowledge it and feel it and let it go. 'Cause that's what it's been for me. So I just want, people to feel better, even if they feel worse at time, like at first, that's kind of how it's been for me, is just, to just maybe identify something that's hurt them along the way, that they had no idea that they were still carrying, and they can just let it go.
Well, I can't imagine with that kind of intention that's not going to happen, because anytime I've heard a song or an album that is that sort of therapy for me, the catharsis of identifying something, it always flushes out. And I have my own memories that are associated with it, but the songs that play, make me think of those things. So I can't imagine it's not going to accomplish that. Let's step out and listen to another cut from the new album by Nicholas Jamerson. The track is called Days Like These. It's from The Narrow Way, out now wherever you download, stream, or purchase music. We'll certainly have links in our show notes at rootsmusicrambler.com. But here's another new cut from Nicholas Jamerson. Don't go away. We'll talk more in a minute about everything from Sunday Best to high school and college football. He is Nicholas Jamerson. This is Roots Music Rambler.
Well, the coal trains are running out of Elkhorn. It's a sight I ain't seen in years. This must be the place your laughter's sweet refrain under skies so clear. Yeah, I can see for a mile in a dance with your eyes lost in seas of green. You could stay for a while in the warmth of my smile and live for the days like these.
Choice Hotels get you more for your money so you can maximize any road trip. Like these road trippers making waffles and eating fresh fruit in their natural habitat. The breakfast area at a Comfort Inn. I just love seeing a vacation maximized in the wild. Check into more. Book direct at choicehotels.com.
All around me I hear the pounding. The dogs in town keep on hounding me. Seems like I can't ever get ahead. I keep grinding but never finding it. Preacher's preaching but I ain't buying it. Wrapped in a shroud of choices I just can't shed. It's hard to live with what you've done. Taking a loss when you think you should have won. Doing the work, not having fun. Never thought I would be this way. Caught up in somebody else's life. Making decisions ain't always wrong or right. I'm just trying to see the light through the dark in every day.
Dark and Every Day is the cut. It's also on the new album out now by the time this episode is live, and it is from the incomparable Nicholas Jamerson. The album is called The Narrow Way. It features Ketch Secor from Old Crow Medicine Show, Shelby Means, Tim O'Brien. The producer is Rachel Bayman, as we talked about already, and the aforementioned sibling Emily Jamerson. Your sister is on this. So, Nick, I have to ask you this. We talked about the album trilogy, which started off with The Wild Frontier and William Dewey Osborne back in 2020. But you also have solo work, sometimes with the Morning Jays, your backing band, but you still do shows with Chris Bentley, the other half of Sunday Best, as Sunday Best, of course. I get the sense you might be bored with the standard single album churn the industry kind of demands from people. And you've always struck me as someone who has so many creative juices flowing that you have to have 9 irons in the fire to stay engaged. Would that be accurate?
Maybe diversity, just need a little diversity. Someone asked me the other day, like, what do I want? And I said, to do whatever I want.
There you go.
And that's really it. I want creative freedom and just, these different, and just it. I also think it takes diversity in this world to kind of live outside of, the 9 to 5, so to speak. We're all trying to make money, to do it, but just out of your, like I said, your typical 9 to 5 corporate kind of thing. I don't know. That's all I've always wanted was creative freedom. And yeah, this is my work, so I kind of, as long as I've been on earth, whatever I've been into, I've been really like all in on, and I don't know.
Well, so then the follow-up question is, do you ever sleep?
I do. I'm really trying to prioritize that more than ever. I'm like looking at these tour dates and I'm like, how am I going to survive this? And it's sleep. It's like, this is the year of not lingering for me. So yeah, I just, I don't know. Last year I was a part of, and I'm in it this year, I'm in a songwriter group where we write a song a week. So I have a lot of songs, and so it's just, I don't know. It's like, that's my work. That's what I'm supposed to be doing. And I feel so blessed and fortunate to like, this is my work. And so I just always felt like songs were my currency that I was dealing with. And as long as I had my songs, then I was going to be okay in terms of making a living. And so I'm just continuing to try to learn and keep it
And sleep.
and sleep, yeah, and be a dad and be a good partner and a son and a brother and all these things. And yeah, I have so much time, I feel like, to do what I need to do. So
Yeah.
That's good.
And with all of the projects you're involved with, you've got, you're part of a couple dozen albums with 3 to 4 different iterations of bands, solo projects, and you're still relatively young. How would you grade where you are in your musical journey, where you still want to go with it? You kind of answered that already. You want just creative freedom. You want to do what you want to do. So, but creatively and perhaps commercially.
I think the trap is always wanting more, and I would love to play like this past weekend. I know it's not, I guess, in line with how this is being released, but like Laurel Cove, and then the night before we played at Beaver Dam for 6,000 people, So I would love, I don't even know if I want to get there, it's like I've thought like 1,000-person venues, that feels like because I think the thing with success that I think about is just like I want to build sustainable success, and I don't want to take over the world. I want to continue to grow, and if I graded myself, I would say an A. Like I'm here, I'm still getting to do it, and I've been able to work as a musician for what year is it? 15 years. You know, and that was always what I wanted to do, and I bought my house selling songs. It's just like that's like the
Pretty
grounded way to
amazing.
say that, like I like,
Yeah.
and that's the thing that I don't want to ever lose sight in, because the thing with this line of work is there's no oversight. There's no one telling you like be grateful, stop and be grateful. Like that's where I've struggled in the past, is not enjoying where I'm at, and
Mm.
wanting more. And I don't know, I'm just trying to just let let it unfold, and just I say, like, meet God in the middle, like I'll just like do the best I can do, and that'll be enough. So
There you
Yeah.
go. Well, we're here for it wherever it goes. Now, I have to go back to the growing up in the Jamerson household for a bit. We talked about music, we touched on sports, but we didn't talk about the big thing for you as a youngster yet. You were quite the athlete. Now that I think that's unusual. Someone who has such a profound musical ability and talent, but someone who was runner up, I think, for the Kentucky High School Mr. Football Award. You walked on at UK, I believe, then transferred and played at U Pike, my hometown. You got some NFL looks as well. Did music take a back seat for a while, or did you find some kind of balance there?
it kinda always took the back seat to sports growing up. It was
Mm.
probably I just it was a cultural thing. Like, my dad was a coach, and sports is just so much more, I mean, it's not more accessible, but it's definitely more celebrated in Prestonsburg, Kentucky,
Yeah,
playing football in
yeah.
particular. And I was singing in church, and I just I don't know. I love to do it, but I didn't like being told to do it,
Mm.
or when I had to do it, and so I was always like sports first, and then I would say 7th or 8th grade, my grandmother gave me a guitar, one of her guitars, and then I would say about 17, 18 is when I felt like I started to shift out of
Mhm.
sports. Even though I played into college, it just wasn't as like, sports weren't as life and death to me. It's like once you get out of high school and you're outside of those, like, bubbles, and
Yeah.
where you're with people from different backgrounds, and it's still very cool, but it's like it's just not the same. No offense, you Pike, but, it's just, well, oddly enough, I was struggling with, like, my decision on to be at UPipe. It was Coppell College then, and I wasn't, I regretted leaving UK and feeling like I had, like, just squandered a huge opportunity, a lifelong dream up to that point, but, I sang in a talent show my first semester at UPipe, and my head coach turned out to be, Jerry Mine is his name, songwriter, and was, like, super intrigued by my singing, and was just like, "Why are you here?" And, he, like, really, like, he left Pikeville after that next year and helped me start booking shows and introduced me to some of my songwriter heroes that
Wow.
kinda made songwriting really real for me, and it was pretty much after that experience, I was playing football to get through college, but but that's when I really started writing songs and really just thinking about a life doing it, at least a way to supplement my life in college, trying to make money and have fun, all that stuff. So
Sounds like Coach Minot was the best football coach you ever had.
he was,
Really?
and he still comes to shows, and it's all it takes in this world is just one person to believe in you. And I think he was really that guy who was an adult that wasn't my parents telling me you got something here. So
Wow.
For sure. So our next question is, what's your best football memory? Was that it?
I mean, we went to the state championship my sophomore year of high school. That whole year was that was pretty special. My junior year, the next year, I tied the state record for like punt returns in a season. That was just a really fun, that was probably the freest I ever played, was that whole year, like my junior year. The most motivated I was. And then that was kind of what was also like the worst thing that could have happened to me too, because it was like almost as good as it possibly could have been. And I'm like, well, now what, Mountain? And college was fun too. We went to the national playoffs as a freshman there and played with a bunch of guys that got into NFL camp. So I had a lot of really good memories with sports. Like I said, my dad just being a coach and just always at fields and gyms, and it's like the main social feeding ground in Eastern Kentucky.
Hell yeah. Friday night football games, babe.
Yeah, no.
That's where it all
Yeah,
happens.
still going to those games is just like it's in the air. You just feel that sense of unity, from community. And I think that I will eventually make my way back into like coaching. That's what I wanted to do. That's why I stayed at Pikeville ultimately, was because I was playing music, but there's no like linear path to doing that, So I was preparing to do other things, and football was it. I was gonna coach, but yeah, I guess there was other plans for my life. So
Well, we're thankful for the other plans for sure. And I will say this: I had a law enforcement officer tell me one time that the Thanksgiving Day is the day when the most warrants are served in the state of Kentucky, because they know all the people who are due for warrants are going to go home to mama to have their Thanksgiving meal. And the second most popular day or destination to serve warrants is at Friday night high school football games, because they know everybody in town is going to be there.
it makes sense.
It does. So I mentioned to you, Nick, in the emails, and then we talked a little bit before we started recording, that Rick Bentley and I were tight. He's essentially the PR guy for the football team at UPike, which is a role I played for a few schools in a previous life. And I know he and the folks at UPike are awfully proud of you and your success. And I know he would want me to share that. He said something to me last week, though, that is as true as anything I've ever heard. He said, your music says as much about this place, meaning Eastern Kentucky, as the original mountain and bluegrass artists ever said about this place. And he said that you write about what you know and it shines through. And then I added, and we love every bit of it. So thank you, Nick, for doing what you do. We really do appreciate you.
I appreciate those kind words, especially coming from Rick, who I feel like is such a fervent, his area and community. And he was another one that really, like, it's like, you can do this, buddy. Like, always supportive. And the whole UPike family, I can't say enough for how they propelled me forward.
Yeah.
Good place.
That's amazing. Very nice. So, Nick, before we go, can you tell our listeners where to find you, your tour schedule, music, and how can we all best support you?
NicholasJamerson.com has all my tour dates. I'm pretty active on Instagram and Facebook. I have a Patreon account where I post a song a week, kind of talking, I was talking about how I write a song a week. I'm part of this songwriter group. So that's a good way Yeah, I guess that's about it. NicholasJamerson.com, Instagram, Facebook, and Patreon. So.
Well, we'll make sure that there's links to all that good stuff on the show notes at rootsmusicrambler.com. As we go to break here, one of the first Nicholas Jamerson songs I ever heard, I believe, it's been a while back, was Heinemann. And I know it's a very popular song. A lot of people know that one. What struck me about that song relates back to what Rick Bentley said about you, Nick. I don't know how many people growing up in Pike or Floyd County ever actually said or thought, thank God for Heinemann. No offense to our brethren or sestrin there. But hearing that song, we felt every bit of it and what it's like to love back home. So let's go to break with Heinemann Wyoming. This is Nicholas Jamerson's solo version of the track. Thanks again to Nick for hanging out with us today. Stick around for the Pick and the Grinning segment. This is Roots Music Rambler.
I love you. Thank you. Thank you. I'm headed to Heinemann for a night on the town to see my sweet Anna, and I ain't slowing down. I was thirsting for something I just couldn't find, from life after war and life after wine. Yeah, I'd give up the smoking and my dirty mouth if I could just hold your hand, if I could just take you out. Thank God for Heinemann.
What's worse than an ad interrupting your favorite music or podcast? That uninspired coffee you've been drinking while working, which is why Flavia is elevating your everyday coffee experience. Now you can enjoy cafe-quality beverages like coffee, tea, frothy lattes, and creamy hot chocolate made right in your home office, actual office, or wherever you want to upgrade your mug with bold, delicious flavors. Visit Flavia.com to shop the collection of machines and beverages now.
Welcome back to Roots Music Rambler. Always fun catching up with a homie, and I'm glad to have gotten Nicholas on the show. We've been trying to get Nicholas on the show for, it seems like, a year and a half, but schedules and, emails to PR people that they ignore for a little while. No offense to anybody who'd ignored or whatever. I know you're all busy, and I know we're a little old tiny dot on the podcast and media map, but I was really happy when we were able to connect with Nicholas. So fun chat, fun guy, and incredibly talented. So go see him or Sundy Best or his sister Emily if you see them playing in your local area, because they're all fantastic. Good stuff. All right, it's time for the Pick and the Grinning segment. This is the part of the program where Frank and I have a pick that makes us grin. It might be an artist, it might be an album, it might be a song, it might be show tunes, it might be a live show, it might be a documentary. It doesn't matter what the hell it is. It's just, hey, you got to go check this out. So this week, Frank, who is your Pick and the Grinning?
Okay, I'm going to go with a band that it doesn't fit nicely into the genre. However, we can definitely argue that it is roots music, and this band is Gypsy Kings. So if you know anything about the Gypsy Kings, they are a Spanish language band, although their nationality, they're from France. They're from the south of France. But there's a reason that that their music is Spanish, and it closely identifies with like flamenco and rumba. And so the Gypsy Kings, and actually just went to see them this past weekend. They played locally, and they've been around for decades, and my family has been we've all been huge fans of the Gypsy Kings for the last, like, I don't even know, 4 decades, I guess, because and I know I've talked about this before, when I was younger and we went on all these road trips as a family, our parents had very eclectic and different music tastes, so our family road trip playlist was very diverse, and Gypsy Kings was one of those bands that featured prominently on our rotation, right? So for Mother's Day, my siblings and I got tickets to take our mother to see them live, and they just, like I said, they just played last weekend here in Chicago. So the show was outstanding, such high energy, and I mean, the vocals are incredible, and the guitars, there were 5 acoustic guitars on the stage. It was amazing, and a bass player and a drummer with 2 drum sets, and then a keys player. So it was really great, and for my family, it was very emotional, it was very personal. My mom teared up a little bit at one point. My brother, the big tough hockey player dude, he was crying, because we can't listen to Gypsy Kings without it reminding us of our father.
Yeah.
So we have a deep connection with the music of the Gypsy Kings. And it's just one of those, their sound and their songs, you can't help but like start just boogieing, right? And I don't know who I thought I was, but I was singing along and loud and in Spanish, but so was everybody else, so it was fine. But yeah, if you aren't familiar with Gypsy Kings, I would highly recommend giving it a spin, especially if you like something different, something, in a different language, but that is something you can still kind of vibe with and relate to, then definitely check them out.
All right. The Gypsy Kings, it's gypsykings.com. And we'll put links to them and their songs on Spotify and whatnot in the show notes. They happen to also, he's no longer with the band, but they happen to be co-founded by my second favorite name in music. One of their co-founders is Chico Buchiki. And that's my second favorite name in all of music. My first, of course, being Critter Fuqua of Old Crow Medicine Show. You can't get by me with a name like Critter and not have me love that shit. But Chico Buchiki, that's a good one too.
It is a good one.
He formed his own group called Chico and the Gypsies. So he's doing something different now. He's not with the Gypsy Kings, but I love that name. So there we go. Gypsy Kings. That's a good one. All right. Now my picking the grinning for this week is the Creekers. And the Creekers are a bluegrass / country / fun time folk music group from Leslie County, Kentucky. That's down there in the mountains in southeast Kentucky. And they have incredible harmonies. They've got a fiddle player who lights her bow on fire and plays fiddles in the stuff. And these guys, they're nuts. And
I'll say.
But their music is so good. They've got great songs. They've got great harmonies. They sound fantastic. And they're starting to make a name for themselves in the live music circuits throughout Kentucky, Tennessee, Ohio, West Virginia, etc. They're an up and coming group. You're going to see them. They've got a couple albums on Spotify. I just think they're fantastic. And on top of it all, as I started to kind of hear their name and see them pop up from time to time and place to place, because my friend Ella Webster, whose grandparents, Larry and Cheryl, we had here on the show, Ella is the fiddle player for Cole Chaney. She has jumped in and played fiddle with the Creekers a couple of times as they've come through Lexington and needed her to fill in or something. So there's some connections there with some of the people I know, even though I don't really know the Creekers. But on top of all that, the father of one of the lead singers and songwriters in the group started pinging me on TikTok and saying, hey, have you heard of the Creekers? Like, yeah, I've heard of the Creekers. Like, you really ought to check them out. And he has messaged me several times, and I've been like, okay, cool. Yeah, I'll check them out, whatever. So he kind of motivated me to get into them a little bit more. And I'm trying to bring him up right now on me. Shining Shane on the TikToks is connected there with the old Creekers. And so he apparently drives them to the gigs sometimes. So I'm like, hey, man, if I'm seeing them on my social media feeds and I'm hearing about them from other people in the music business, and then one of them's dad reaches out to me, Yeah, they're going to get a pick in the grinning for sure. So, and I literally have been listening to their stuff on Spotify this past week, and they're really good. They're just one of those fun, kind of like the Gourds, bluegrass band that just
Yeah.
has a lot of fun on stage, and I'd highly recommend them. So, you got
2 things.
yes, go.
2 things about the Creakers. The dad reaching out on their behalf is adorable.
Yeah.
And second, did you see them live recently?
I didn't see them live. I've been watching some videos of them.
Who did you see? Was there another? Okay. You said the Creakers, and it made me think. I thought you saw them, but it was probably a similar.
I saw the Cleverleys, and you might be thinking the
That's it,
Cleverleys.
yeah.
Yeah, they're more of a like
Okay.
parody song group, but
Okay, got it.
yeah, but no, the Creakers are more traditional bluegrass and down from down there in Leslie County, Kentucky, down there in the coal fields. You got you
And of course, it all goes back to Kentucky.
you can spit and hit Virginia from Leslie County now.
Oh my goodness. Okay, great.
All right, before I lapse into any more Eastern Kentuckyisms, we probably had to get the hell out of here. Well,
Yeah, my dog just farted really bad.
nice. Well, all right, we got dog farts on Roots Music Rambler. I love it. We're going somewhere. We'll have links to the Creakers and the Gypsy Kings in our show notes at rootsmusicrambler.com. Thanks again to Nicholas Jamerson for hanging out with us here before we got too goddamn silly. Roots Music Rambler is a production of Falls and Partners, copyright 2025. Our theme music is Sheepskin and Beeswax by Gentacorum. Join us online at rootsmusicrambler.com and make sure you mash that subscribe or follow button so you remember to join us for the next hoedown and throwdown. She's Frank.
And he's Falls.
And whatever you do, kids, ramble on.